All right. Good morning, everybody. Mike Courtney here, Mass Mutual, Eastern Pennsylvania. It is a very gloomy and dreary Wednesday morning in southeastern PA. But spring is right around the corner, and we've got a lot of business going on, a lot of things to talk about today. And I'm joined by my good friend and counterpart, Steve Parisi, President and CEO of IBC Global. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Mike. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
All right.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the webinars that you guys have been doing that we've been discussing. There's two things that I really want to highlight for anyone who's listening to this pod, any agents, advisors, or potential clients and prospects. Steve has, due to popular demand, started to roll out some new content that is educational in nature, where you're going to start to talk about some other vehicles other than life insurance. I was able to preview some of this, and I've been involved in some discussions with Steve about how to access certain products and who are good external partners for his agency to partner with. And I think you're really going to want to check this out because, much like the other content that comes out of IBC, it is very black and white, plain facts, educational in nature. These are not your typical sales pitches. This is for someone who really wants to understand both general overview and then nuances of something like the annuity marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And we can start just there because there's a lot. But for years, just as we've built the business, we don't really sell. Since I've been in this business, I've never sat down at the table and asked someone for the check. Like, it's just not my thing. I do like to educate, though. I thoroughly enjoy it, going through how whole life insurance works, different companies, how we can set up a policy for maximum cash value, and all the details we always talk about that some people are really, really interested in. And some people say, Steve, you're nuts. No one cares about that. But, that's okay. So my point is that that's worked well. And I had a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of fun with it. But over the years, we've seen that education approach really, really works. And we've had people over the years always ask about different products and services. Can you guys help with my overall retirement plan? And for a while, we just focused on life insurance. So we are growing. We've got plans for the future. One product that we're looking at now is annuities when they're a fit. So just taking the same approach and educating people about how annuities work. So if you and I were to ask 10 people, what is an annuity? How many would be able to answer it? Not that many. Because they are complex.
It's such a simple vehicle too.
Yeah.
It's strange. It was always strange to me that's kind of a mystery to the public.
Yeah. And you could say the same thing about whole life insurance when you look at it. So what we don't want to do, what I don't want to do, is come into a situation and just recommend, well, you should put your money into an annuity because it's going to guarantee you additional income in retirement. Yeah, it's great. But some people will say, well, I don't really know what it is. Or I've seen commercials or articles that say annuities are bad and people would rather die before they sell an annuity. I can think of one commercial. Yeah. So that's where the education comes into play. Like, what I really like to do is provide education, help people understand what it is they're looking at. And then if they say, hey, I'm interested in learning more, can you show me how this would work for me, or tell me if it's a fit or not, then progress forward and help them set it up. But if you just ask that question, what is an annuity? Start very, very simple, because there's a million different types of annuities and different ways you can structure them. What we were talking about earlier, how it works is I give the insurance company a pile of money. The insurance company says, thank you for your money. I do appreciate it. But then in return, they say to you, we're going to guarantee that you'll get income for the rest of your life. You can explain it like it's insurance for your money, or another way you could explain it is it's like you're buying a rental property with cash. So you don't have any loans outstanding on it. You don't have any property tax due. There's never going to be expenses. That property is going to be in perfect condition. And you're guaranteed that the tenant is going to pay on time for the rest of their life or for the rest of your life. So you're guaranteed that income from an annuity. And that's one type of an annuity that I'm using specifically for income. So that can benefit a lot of people. There's people that are interested in that. But then when you look at the drawbacks to some annuities, I give the insurance company a big pile of cash, and I can't really access that big pile. I'm doing it to guarantee myself income in the future. That's what I want to do. Fantastic. If I want access to that cash for my business or to use for opportunities, then we would say, hey, I wouldn't do this, right? Because you're going to tie it up. If you want to access it, you either A, you can't, or B, you're going to get dinged with penalties and taxes and all this other stuff that you'd say, I wish I never did this in the first place. So educating on things like that helps people really understand the product for what it is, and then say, okay, I'm interested in learning more, or just seeing if it'll help me get where I want to get in retirement or in a couple years. How can it complement my life insurance strategy in terms of what I'm doing with the cash value, and also a long-term play too, if we're looking at the death benefit from an estate planning standpoint. I talked a
Right.
lot there. That makes sense?
Yeah. So I really
Yeah.
like, excuse me, I really like this approach. And for me, if I'm from a consumer mindset, it's so hard to find trustworthy advisors, or I've had a hard time recently with the self-education process, with
Yeah.
the endless amount of information that's out there. And, I think about people. I mean, I feel fortunate to be in this business. So it's a lot easier for me to understand the basics and then some of the more complexities about retirement planning or insurance planning. But if you're not in this business and you don't have a trusted advisor to try to self-educate, there's just so much information out there and it's all over the place. So for me, to have somebody like yourself and your team, who I know is ultimately super trustworthy and has a long track record, to see you go into some of these other areas is really a breath of fresh air. And I think that that's going to be a really good thing for your client base, both prospects, but also for advisors that follow your content. I think it's really going to help them with how to talk to their clients about some of these products.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that. I do really appreciate that. I mean, with the other products like annuities, for example, that was something we had a discussion a while back. And when we decided yes, we're going to offer this along with some other products and services, we start with one at a time, because our thing is, like, what I don't want to do is come out and say, hey, we're going to offer this product and service now,
You
and
do
we
it
can
all. Yep.
yeah, because that's great and all. And yes, people might trust us. Like, I might trust you if you said you were doing that now. But if you don't have the knowledge and experience there, mistakes are going to happen. And then you
If
got
you're
to
not
give,
that kind of stuff, I've always found, if you're not doing it day to day, you're going to drop the ball somewhere. There's
correct. You
too
got,
many. There's constant changes, and there's a lot of complexities that you can't be an expert at all things.
correct. So you got to get in shape first, right? Before you go and
Yeah,
enter this race. So you might be used to running 5Ks all the time. But now if you know track and field, now you got to go run an 800-meter. That's a completely different race. The
yep.
training's completely different. That was my event in college, high school and college. It's completely different. Like, you have to be fit for that. So I can't just take a 5K runner and throw him in the 800-meter and expect him to have success. Like,
Right.
he might do okay, but he's not going to beat the guys that train for the 800. It's not going to happen. Or if you want a different sport, I can't throw a tight end in there at quarterback. Like, I've got to go through the conditioning, the training. I've got to
Even
understand
if
the
that tight
playbook.
end is the most athletic player on the field,
Yeah,
they're going to flub something at
yeah.
some point.
He, yeah, you might have a couple good plays like, hey, this guy can do it. Yeah, he
Yeah.
probably can, but he's not going to be Tom Brady or somebody that lives and breathes that every day. You've got
Right.
to put the training and the time in. So that we've been working on. I've been working on it a lot. the sales team or our associates have just been role playing as far as, okay, here's the information. Let's rehearse it out loud. So this way I'm not tripping over my own words or saying, what did I just say? What did I mean there? Because that stuff happens. And those are the small steps you got to take, I think, in any business to prevent those situations where a client is just confused with what you're saying. And then they call a different agent or agency saying, I talked to someone for 2 hours and I feel like I didn't get anywhere.
Right.
Frustrated. I'm like, I don't want that to be us. So the first thing we want to do is understand the products and companies, not just the basics, but the small details like we do with life insurance.
Yep.
Yeah. This way, when problems come up, you know what to do, you know who to go to, and you can fix them for the client without the client panicking. And the client's going to sense that. They know that you have their back. So that's really important to me. So as we've been working on everything, that's one project that we've been working on, just training internally, getting everything set up. We've been working with people on annuities, but we haven't been advertising it that much because it's been with people we've worked with on the life insurance side of things. We've got the relationship there already. Right. So we'll start there. And then we'll continue to do more and more with that. But it's the same thing we do with life insurance, consumer first, right? One of our core values is the golden rule, which is my favorite scripture, Matthew 7, verse 12, just treat others how you want to be treated. Right. If you do that, you will be okay. That's all you got to do.
Things will work out.
They always do. That's my go-to. When someone says, we got this problem with the case, I'm like, what would you want if you were in that situation?
Right.
Do that.
I think as time progresses, your clients and your prospects are going to see many, many situations and areas where some combination of life insurance and annuities is going to create, what kind of looks like the perfect solution.
Yeah.
There are no real perfect solutions and everything's always fluid, but some combination of those two products in your personal portfolio are really going to give you a chance for maximum success, whether it's the goal is cash accumulation or retirement income or, some kind of retirement goal. I think that they're going to find that, having that flexibility and capabilities for both is huge.
Oh, that's definitely huge. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, annuities are a nice piece. They're not a fit for everyone. They're not. But for someone that wants to understand the benefits and be educated, whether we go over custom samples with them or they do research, they'll see where they can be a fit for some people, just like other products and services. It's just taking your time and doing it right.
Right. Yeah. So before we break today, I want you to give everybody a quick preview of the webinar that you have coming up. That's going to be, what I would call a case study webinar based on existing policies, existing cases. Steve and I were talking about anytime you see any kind of advertisement or marketing from one of the big mutual companies about how high net worth people use whole life insurance or, what kind of cases whole life insurance is applicable for. The blurb is always, Walt Disney used a whole life policy to start the first Disney World theme park, or something about J.C. Penney. No real specifics. We don't get any kind of specific detail. So what do you have in mind and when is that going to be coming up?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So that topic, how wealthy people and how wealthy families use cash value life insurance, is always a topic of interest. People want to know, what are they doing with cash value life insurance policies? And then what you mentioned is typically used as a hook. Here's wealthy individuals that have used it in the past, but that's it. That's all you get. Or here's the Rockefeller strategy. It's like, what really is the Rockefeller strategy? Because they're not going out there and showing you all the details with their trust documents and such. It's like, no, like, unless you're the advisor working on it, you don't know the ins and outs of it. Like, you don't. So what we're going to do is take this approach. Our webinar is at the end of this month. It's the 29th of April. The topic is going to be how the wealthy use whole life insurance, a step-by-step guide. And what we'll cover is first, why do wealthy families buy life insurance? Like, what are the specific reasons why they do it? For the cash value, for the death benefit? Like, why? And then second, here's the big point we're going to spend most of our time on: examples of wealthy people that we work with and have worked with for years that pay 6 figures, 7 figures, even 8 figures into cash value life insurance policies. Like those examples, going through step by step, how are they set up? What questions did the individuals ask? What questions did their tax advisors ask? How was the policy set up? That leads into the point 3, how to copy and paste what they do. But how is the policy set up? Not just from a design standpoint, but what was the ownership?
Ownership.
Was it a revocable trust, an irrevocable trust? Was it an LLC? Did the individual just say, I just want to own it individually because there's more conveniences that are offered to me from the insurance company? That kind of stuff I found people are really interested in. And I didn't want to just create something like, hey, we've got this secret strategy that the Vanderbilts or Rockefellers have used forever. It's like, you know what? That's great and all, knowing that people have used it. I do like that. I think it's interesting. But it's like, let's get some real context here and show people exactly like what we've done with individuals, what their tax attorneys have done for their clients, the things that work, the things that don't work, so people can have a step-by-step guide. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. Like I've already gotten excited talking about it and putting everything together because that topic people are always interested in. So that'll be fun.
I love it because, to look at a lot of times things like that for, I'm going to label myself a regular person.
Yeah.
To look at what the ultra wealthy do feels daunting or feels inaccessible to regular people. But for something like this, I always feel like good, smart decisions are good, smart decisions, whether it's $1 million or $100.
Yeah.
And that really holds true here. I fund my whole life insurance policies and I fund my retirement plans in a certain way. And it might not be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe it's tens of thousands of dollars. There's still really good, sound, smart strategies that I know are going to play out in the long run. And I think that's what you're going to be highlighting.
Yeah, exactly that, right? So how people use their policies, firstly, how they set them up, what the cash value looks like, what do they use the cash value for, and then the ownership structure. Are they concerned about generational wealth staying within the family? How would you do that? Or what do tax attorneys typically discuss? I'm not a tax attorney, so I can't provide the specifics, but I can share what other tax attorneys have shared during conversations I've been involved in, which is fantastic. So,
and you don't have to have a liquid $1 million net worth to access these strategies, right?
You don't. And the cool thing is, like, I guess in my mind, like how I want to present it as we put it together is showing, here's the blueprint of exactly what they do. And you see them pumping in, right, millions and 7 figures per year into a policy. Okay, here's the same policy, just with a 0 or 2 removed, money going in. So you can use it in the same way that this uber wealthy person did.
Right.
But then when you look at the ownership structure, they had it owned by an LLC. That LLC was owned by a trust. You got all these complex layers for estate and asset protection. Okay, that's great. So if you want that, here's the steps to take. However, do you really need it? And if you go through these steps, well, now all of a sudden you don't have the online account features as far as accessing the cash value easily. If you want to access the cash value and the policy is owned through an irrevocable trust that's going to override or limit some of the benefits that you get with that irrevocable trust. So just providing awareness there so people say, oh, okay, so maybe I don't want to do that. But if I eventually want that, what do I do? Well, then here's a step you can take and go through the details then.
Awesome. Guys, keep your eyes peeled. End of the month. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be awesome. Steve, thanks for everything today. If anybody has questions about anything we discussed or anything at all, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Mike Courtney. This is Steve Parisi. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Enjoy.